Hi, Concord here. So, a few weeks ago, I got to speak to Sam and Nigel in regard to sound design, and I had an absolute blast talking to them, and I wanted to know more. So, I got the opportunity to speak to Sanaa Kelley about Foley work, and again, I had an absolute blast talking about sound. And did you know all that sound a Foley artist does is actually created? Sound on set is actually unusable. So, a Foley artist will go in and recreate a lot of those sounds, and even at times create brand new sounds for you, the viewer, to enjoy your TV show or movie. So join me as I speak to Sanaa Kelley about Foley work. Sanaa, thank you so much for your time and doing this. I want to know all about everything you do. And for people that, like myself, that have a lot of movies even behind me, you can see my collection there. But a lot of people don't realize, like, all those footsteps, when people grab a glass, when they're putting books down, everything that is what you do. And I appreciate all the work you do, because those little details mean so much to the scene and the sound. So thank you for that. And how did you get into this profession, this role?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I appreciate all the movies. I hope you're only listening to sound. And then if you want to hear everything that I do, you're going to need like more than an hour. You're going to need years because I do a ton. So let's start with how I got started this. I started like 29 years ago. I saw someone doing Foley and I thought it was pretty intriguing and kind of silly at the same time. Like, what are you doing? Like, is this like a real job? I had questions like everyone does. Is this a real job? Why are they not using the actual production sound that they're shooting during the filming? So all those questions I had. So I went, he's like, yeah, go in front of the mic. So I went in front of the mic. And the thing about Foley is the mic is in front of you. You have to do the sounds of walking, like just in front of mic. You can't walk away from it. So you got to make it sound natural. You got to make it sound dynamic. You got to act with sound. So I didn't know how to walk and not move forward and make it sound big and like a heel toe kind of thing. It's unnatural. And then when the cameras, you have it on the actor's feet, then it moves up to like the torso or just the shoulders. Then I'm like, okay, where are his feet or her feet? Like, I don't see it. I still remember the scene I was doing like it was yesterday. Like, one person walking and I couldn't get sync at all. Couldn't get good sound. My feet were flopping everywhere. So then he said, you know what? It's okay because some people have it, some people don't. You just don't have it. And I'm like, oh, well, that kind of hurt like my heart, you know? So I called every studio. I'm like, you know what? I'm really good at making coffee. I can sweep. I can do this. I can do that. Can you please allow me to sit in and watch? What I didn't realize is Foley is a very like closed environment that people don't like to teach. So Foley artists won't let me see them. So
Really?
but then one studio, they said, I can sit in with the mixer, with the Foley mixer. And then the Foley artist, there was a glass door between us and the mixer and the Foley stage. They actually shut off the lights so I don't see what they're doing. What they did is they actually did me a favor because I learned to use my ears and actually listen to what the mixer is getting to know if something is good or not. So after they would leave, I'm like, no, I clean after you guys. I'll put everything away. So I would clean and I try to like remember scenes and try to recreate them in my head and just practice. Eventually, after a while, they had a low budget with no money. And then they asked if I wanted to do it and I get paid. I'm like, yes, please. I'm already sweeping for free. Might as well do Foley for free. And the rest is history. Just try.
Well, that's what you brought up before about, walking and getting that right. That's a really interesting point because you're kind of walking on the spot and you got to get that kind of, as you said, natural. Do you find you're using different techniques to get that walking correct so it matches up with the sound on the screen?
Well, if you see my videos, I look like a complete idiot when I'm walking, my hands flopping all over the place. What I realized is I use my hands for balance and actually get into character. Also, I did years and years and years of practicing doing a heel toe where I could sound big. And also Foley is just about getting the sound and the sync.
Yep.
It's about you are acting with sound. So if an actor is walking and they're sad, you get to depict sadness in their feet and their prop if they're touching anything. Like, just imagine when you're sad, there's no upbeat to your sound. There's a little drag to it, right? So your job as a Foley artist is to service the story and respect it at the same time. So I'm getting sync, getting sound, matching the shoes, matching the surface, and matching the acting with sound.
So when they give you whether it's a TV show or a movie, do they give you an itinerary of what the sounds they want, or do they hand that over to you and you gather all the sounds that's needed, or do they give you a list of everything they want for that TV show? How does it work? Step us through the process.
So the process is usually, almost always, the way it works is they give you a picture, the video. Let's say what show we're going to talk about. Let's get a show, for example. Let's say
so great show I've been watching, and you've got some awards. Let's talk about Shogun.
Do not be fooled by our politeness. Our bows are maze of rituals. Death is in our air, and sea and earth.
Because I had some questions on Shogun as well, because there were some scenes that were really quiet. Let's talk about this scene. It had two gentlemen sitting down, conversation. Now, you don't see them pour a tea, and it's episode 5. You don't actually see them pour a tea, but the sound is added. It's implied that as they're talking, they're pouring a cup of tea. I thought, hey, that's an awesome bit of detail to have that. So it doesn't, just to enhance the scene a little bit. And
here's the thing.
Go for it.
First of all, I will talk about that scene. So a lot of the stuff, you don't know if it's added. It could be in production.
Right.
So we don't know if it's added. So a lot of times, if it's in production and we hear it, so the sound may not be clear or they're talking over it, so we have to do it regardless. So we have, if production is there for live TV, like features and TV shows and stuff, if there's production sound, we will match it, and what we call is top it. So they have the original sound and our Foley will be on top of it. It has to match and be better.
Right.
So if it's not clean, if it's this, so if they don't go through, if I'm talking, I'm pouring tea, even though you don't see it, I'm talking, I'm pouring tea. That pour of the tea will be in my dialogue. If my dialogue is not clean because the tea pouring is louder, then I have to go into the studio as an actor and redo my lines so they're nice and clean. It's called ADR. So that's why they do it. So for animation, you get like a really clean canvas that you add those sounds. So on those instances, yes, we added sound, even though if it's not there. But for Shogun, we don't know, like, I don't remember the scene. I don't remember the exact scene. Sometimes it's in production. Sometimes it's like, hey, we cut the scene a little short. We want to do some implied thing. So can you put some tea thing? And the way usually shows work, like, for example, Shogun. Like, we have the entire episode and someone goes through it and cues every little thing in the show. Anytime their clothes move from beginning to end, we do it's called a cloth pass for the entire thing. They're sitting, everything, the entire pass. For Shogun, we had a separate track. Anytime their kimonos are dragging on the floor, we do separate pass of the kimonos drag on the tatami mats.
Right.
And then there was another track. Anytime they put their arms up, because the kimonos are longer, we do sound, an extra sound of the cloth moving. Then we have a track of all the hands. Anytime hands together, touching hands, there's a track of that. We do all the hands. Anytime there's hands to legs, hands to body, we do that too. Every single one you see is replaced by us. And then for, of course, Shogun, we had to have a track of sitting on the tatami mats. So
Right.
anytime we sit, we do just like we call them the butt downs, butt ups, any of those. Then we have a track of just eating. Anytime they put something in their mouth and they eat it, we have to actually match the smack of the mouth.
Yes, I noticed that, and the sticks in the bowl, and one
Yes.
awesome bit of detail on my system. I noticed the samurai swords. I could even hear them, brushing up against the clothing, or every now and then, the sheath of the swords would hit together, and I just went, "That is awesome."
So normally about Shogun, it had to be authentic.
Yes,
Authentic. So basically, the sound designer, he bought big swords,
Yep.
right? Katanas, right?
Yep.
So, he recorded a lot of his own sounds with that. So I need to order the same one because I wanted to match his sound design that he's doing. So,
Wow.
but me, they're clocking together, right? Like you said, they're clocking together. So I had to buy two. I'm like, oh my God. So I bought two of them. And then what's so great, what's so difficult about Shogun is the quiet moments are so delicate, so perfect. And I had to be delicate and perfect with them too. So the swords clacking, I'm not going to get them and be like, clack, 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 clack. I'm actually watching the screen. And anytime they hit, I see that they would hit a little harder, I'll do it. If I think this scrape against cloth, I'll do that. That was a track of just swords. Then just clanking. Like you said, chopsticks. We had to do a track of just chopsticks in the liquid, out of the liquid, hidden. And when they were like slurping the noodles, that was so funny because I tried noodles and I couldn't suck them fast enough, Then what I did, I got actually Jello.
Okay.
It sounded really great because you go and you get that, and I add another track of just the liquidy parts, and I was doing it so aggressive, like the actors, that actually a piece of Jello got stuck in my throat.
No.
I was gonna die with Jello in my throat.
Jesus.
It was really funny. And then with that show too, normally I do heel toe. You see me walk like a little baby Godzilla. I sound giant, right? Because you also have to remember, once you add music, you add dialogue, you add BGs, the sounds get drowned out. So I have to be bigger than life. But with Shogun, I couldn't.
Right.
Because culturally, especially the women, they were kind of like delicate.
Yep.
And I had to learn how to re-walk because I couldn't do like the little scrapey thing they were doing. So I had to like buckle my knees together, my knees touching, so I'm able to go like that.
Right. I wondered, because when they were walking, I was going to ask you about that. So you've just answered that question. That's right.
Yeah, that was really tough because usually you see people's shoulders move.
Yep.
Because they're just shuffling their feet and I see the movement. So then I'll do the whole thing and it zooms in their feet. I'm like, damn it, I didn't match. So I got to go back and redo it and time it differently. So I would end when you see the feet. And it's so rewarding. Like one of the dubbing mixers for Shogun, is Greg Russell. I think he has 19 Oscar nominations.
Oh, wow.
I think I know because I went and counted them on IMDb. I think it was episode 4 or episode 5. I got a call that said, he's like, hey, is this Sanaa Kelley from Real Foley? So I'm like, yeah. He goes, this is Greg Russell. I'm like, oh my gosh, like dubbing mixers never call. So I just wanted to throw the phone around away. I'm like, yes. He goes, I just want to say, great work, sounds amazing. I'm like, I appreciate all the little details. I'm like, oh my God, stop it. I'm going to cry. I'm like, seriously, almost threw the phone away. I thought you were going to complain.
Well, and compliments to the team and yourself, because that show, I'm watching it on my system and I noticed the sound and
quality. It was challenging and beautiful. And like, I tell people you can't do Foley for the money because it's so many hours, like into little minute details. You have to do it for the love of it, creating.
I was asking Sam and Nigel, the sound designers, I said to them, what's your time frame? Are you racing against the clock with Foley to get all those sounds? Are you on a bit of a deadline each time you get handed a project?
Yeah, you always are on deadline. They tell you how long you have to do it.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about my company, Real Foley Sound, is I own it. If I go over, I'm paying for it, so that's fine. And I'm a Foley artist, so it's great as long as I pay the other people. Like, to a certain extent, the budgets do determine how much time I spend on something or I won't be in business, right? But with shows that I absolutely love, like, I don't pay attention to their time or their budget. I'm like, we're going to work till we get it right.
That's awesome. That's a great edit. Like, to get it right, it shows in Shogun, because when I watched it, I was impressed with the sound. It's really cool that you got that attitude of trying to, I want to get it right. Let's put the time in. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then it's sometimes like you doing hands, some people would just put a piece of cloth and do hands as they go, right? With me, if they touch a chest, sounds different than a leg, So I'll do it on the leg to like the beefiness, but then I'll do another one on the chest too, because the chest sounds more hollow, so stuff like that. And then my Foley partner that has been working with me for years and years and years, he has the best sounding hands. Like I could be watching a TV show or like just in the kitchen cooking and listening to sound, and I'm like, oh, I hear Matt's hands. And I look, it's a TV show. I'm like, oh, we worked on that. I recognize it by his hands. I'm like, he has the best sounding hands. It's so great.
Well, I noticed in your Instagram, which I thought was, and it's one of my questions actually, and I thought it was really creative. I love that you used an umbrella for the dragon wings. I went, perfect. So step us through, what is one of the most unique sounds you've had to create?
I feel like every sound I create, I mean, it's pretty difficult. It's like when someone comes to my Foley stage, you're like, okay, show us what's really different and unique. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, this is my life every day for the past 29 years. All of it is like normal. I guess the wings, like umbrella for wings.
Yeah, that's great. That was genius. I thought that was awesome.
For beetles, or like I use like a little handheld fan and slow down my finger to get the flying.
Yeah. And I noticed that, was it the lettuce for the fairy or something?
Yeah, so that's really weird because it's an animation and the fairy was kind of big, right?
Yep.
And they said that the wings are more fleshy. So I'm over there, I'm like, well, then I need some vegetables, right? So I'm over there at the grocery store listening to lettuce and stuff, and you can't open it and like handle it and then people go and eat it. So I bought romaine lettuce, I bought the butter lettuce, I bought cabbage. So then the cabbage was really squeaky and like rough. I'm like, I don't think I like it. But then I got this lettuce and I was like hitting them against each other. It was really cool. I mean, I got some crazy things that people ask me to do, like they want to hear the sound of a moth flying. Well,
oh, wow.
You hear the air being pushed. That's what you can hear. So I'll go in front of the mic. I'm a fan in it. I'm like, is that what they want? Dusting the air. I'm using a duster kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I use pine cones with my nails for roach feet, or roach. It depends what it is. Is it real life? Is it real? Or is it animation? Or is it some CGI stuff? Like, I mean, there's no one thing. Yeah. And I get people that judge me too, based on maybe 20 years ago I wasn't good. Maybe 10 years ago I wasn't good. Maybe I didn't have enough time. So now I tend to be like, when I have clients, when they want like, 10 pounds of sugar, but they only give me a 5-pound bag, I explain to them, 10 pounds is not going to fit in a 5-pound bag. It's impossible. So in order for this to be possible, I'm going to have to give you less expensive Foley artist just because they're less experienced. The sound will be there, the sync will be there, but the finesse might not be there. But that's what you're paying for. And then you're getting what you pay for, but also they're learning to get better. And eventually they're going to get better. But you have to realize what you're paying for. But I'm always upfront and honest, so they know what they're getting. If you want me or, other A team, you're going to have to pay.
With Foley, do you find different microphones will give you a different result in how it's recorded? So do you use a particular microphone for this and a particular microphone?
Microphones are really, I think, could be a personal thing.
Right.
I worked at so many stages where I walked in and I'm like, okay, this sounds horrible. Like, what is it? Is it the stage? Is it the person that's recording, or is it me? You're always thinking it has to be, the problem is somewhere. And a lot of the times they could have the best microphone, the most expensive, best microphone, but that's not what's needed for the room. So you gotta know your room. So when people are telling me, hey, which mic do you use? I'm like, what I use is the Neumann, KMR 81, and then the TLM 170R for the far mic. Some people say, well, I don't like that mic. I'm like, you don't like it for you. I get it. So you may not like the TLM 170R. It works perfectly for me. What I did when I built my stage, because I built it from scratch, did all the soundproofing and everything, I rented out like so many different microphones. And I sat there and I listened to them, recorded them, labeled them. Then I listened to which one sounded the best for my room. So you have to do your homework. I can tell you this mic sounds great. It sounds great for me because I spent so much time and money. I actually sat there with the architect, designed my room with like 3 different walls, spaces. Wow. There's nothing facing one another, like 4 different installations. Like there's so much to go into it. So my room is clean. Using those mics work perfectly. If I take those mics to somewhere else, they're going to pick up noise in the room and it's going to sound horrible. Because my room is quiet, it works perfectly for it. So it is a personal choice.
Yeah.
And also depends on your environment.
Room acoustics and, the equipment, and it also goes for the microphone as well. It just means so much.
People also are recording in the Foley stage with headphones. Okay. Are your clients, when they're doing the dubbing mix, are they sitting in the dub stage with headphones? When people go to the movie theaters, are they listening with headphones? No, they're using speakers. Yep. So mixer, go in a mix stage, like go in your mix room, your own mix room, use speakers similar to what your audience is going to be listening to. Like your client, I'm not talking about the audience, us, people at the movie theaters or the directors, the producers, when they come into your room to listen. So, and then this way you get as much natural as possible. For me, that's what worked. Other people that I talk to, they're like, no, I feel closer when I'm in there with the Foley artist in the room. I'm like, to me, it doesn't make sense. To them, it does. And listen, some people that mix with headphones sounds great. So who am I to say? So like, it depends from situation to situation. In my room, the rooms are treated in the mix stage, like what my Foley mixers are. I have bass traps because I want them to hear the true sounds.
Actually, on that, when you're mixing and you've grabbed all the sound, put all that effort into it, is it always interesting for you from a Foley perspective when you sit down and watch the show or movie, how the sound design has been done? The end result.
Yeah, the end result is always so rewarding.
Yeah.
So Rupert, y'all take your darts over here pretty seriously, huh?
Do you like darts, Ted?
Oh, they're okay. I'm more of a cornhole man myself. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. How about a game?
Mate, what do I need to win?
2 triple 20s and a bullseye.
Good luck. Rupert, guys have underestimated me my entire life. And for years, I never understood why. It used to really bother me. But then one day, I was driving my little boy to school, and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that.
especially on bigger shows, because you know they have the best people working on it, right?
Yeah.
So then when you sit there and listen to it, you're like, wow, I'm really, really glad I spent so and so hour. Like it could be like a little scratch. I could have done it like 20 times because I didn't like it. And then when you hear it ever so subtle, you're like, it was worth it.
Yeah. I remember sending you a DM, and I sent it to Sam and Nigel as well. And I watched a show on Amazon. I won't name the show, but there was a scene. It was dramatic, and a piece of equipment fell. And I sat there and I rewound it. I need to switch off sometimes and switch off and not worry about the sound. But it was such a dramatic scene, and this piece of equipment, there was no sound for it. And I thought, oh, that could have, it was a major piece, and it hit, and the camera zoomed past it, so you could have had some panning and really involved the audience with that pan. But there was...
Well, sometimes I have to say, sometimes the client decides certain things. I know, like I say, I may not agree with it, but like the client just doesn't want to hear Foley. Like, I don't understand it. I'm like, the client is always right.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes they make decisions for certain things. Sometimes it's done intentionally.
Yep.
And sometimes it just really shouldn't, put that sound there, please.
Yeah. Well, I remember, and hopefully I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I think I remember the quote. George Lucas said, sound is 50% of the movie watching experience.
Oh, I like that.
And, when you sit there in a theater, I mean, you can have a big screen, but if the sound is terrible, it's not going to have that impact. And I kind of agree. Like, I can have something kind of smaller screen, but if I got great sound, I'm still going to get involved.
I feel like Foley artists are lucky in a sense because we get the shows without the sound, like without the really good sound.
Yep.
So we hear just a production sound, not clean dialogue. Sometimes they have temp videos and stuff like that. So we get to see it before it's done. And then, so we do our magic and we listen back, we're like, oh my gosh, we love it, And then we have the Foley blasting. And of course, when they mix it, it sounds so much lower and natural as it should be, right?
Yeah.
And when you hear everything together, it doesn't sound like Foley. It sounds like the actors did it. And that is the most rewarding feeling.
It's natural. You wouldn't pick it up. Well, your resume of shows is, you got Ted Lasso.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Shogun. I mean, and you did Yellowstone.
Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah. And
that's
I looked at your resume and I'm like, oh my goodness, all these shows.
I have to forget. A lot of times I forget to add them to my IMDb. Like, there's so many I'm gonna have there.
All right. So there's even more there in your resume.
Some of them, they don't release them for a couple of years, and they don't want us to put it in IMDb.
Oh.
So then by the time they release them, if I don't see it on Netflix or something, I even forgot that I did it. Oh yeah, that looks familiar. Did I work on it, or did I watch it somewhere? Like,
that's a perfect segue to get into this. There was a show you worked on, and it got cancelled before it even aired, and that was Swamp Thing.
Atlanta called. There's a situation back in the States.
Where? You're kidding.
How long has it been since you were home?
A while.
CDC!
My name is Dr. Abby Arcane. My team is here to find the source of this disease.
There's this poison coming off the smoke.
Something's out there.
it was so good. Oh my God.
Had that X-File kind of feel to it.
Some of the water stuff I did, I had like 3 mics going, right? Like I had underwater mic, overwater mic. I had this like really creepy like the thing, it was, I'm like, I try not to think about it because it was such a good show.
It was a good show and cancelled.
And I don't think they aired any of it, did they?
No, I had to get it on. They only released it on physical media, and someone came to work and said, "Oh, have you seen Swamp Thing?" And I went, "That got cancelled." And he goes, "No, they released it on Blu-ray." So I went down to grabbed it, watched it, and your work. You're right, with the water and the swamp scenes.
Oh my gosh.
Great. You can hear the crickets and the everything in the background. Beautiful.
Peter Lago was the sound designer for that, I believe. And he is just magical with sound effects. And like when you hear sound effects, because sound effects on Foley kind of like, cross over. But like when I go, and sometimes I just go to his studio just to listen, like if I'm at Warner Brothers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like literally drooling at the sound. Like it just sounds delicious. I love it.
A previous setup I had, and I think I was watching the movie for the third time, and I was sitting there with my wife because she hadn't seen the movie, and this car comes in from the right, and it goes through the center speaker, then drives off to the left, and the car came in, it panned, and then I got no sound out of the left speaker, and I went, something's not right, and she goes, don't worry about it, we'll just keep watching it. And I went, I can't go through the show knowing that the left speaker's not working at the moment. Something's not wrong. The kids were really young. I thought maybe they've unplugged something, but I had to stop the movie and figure out what was going on. In the end, I plugged it back up, and
the car did spin around. Well, you know what? I really appreciate that because we have our mixers that mix in an Atmos. They make stuff pan and stuff. So I'm really thankful for people like you that are respecting the sound and want to hear it. So whoever mixed that is probably really happy that you're saying this.
Oh, thank you, mate. I love sound. I'm very passionate about it, and that's why I wanted to get people like yourself and Nigel and Sam to let people know all the effort that you go to, so we can enjoy these TV shows and these movies, because you put so much effort into it. And I love when it's been mixed beautifully. So do sound designers, Foley artists, and do you all have to sign an NDA?
Yep. Oh yeah. That's why a lot of people's like, oh, why don't you share? I'm like, I'm not trying to get sued. Like
can't do that.
For Shogun, he had to go through a lot of channels before we could post anything. There's no way I will post without having something in writing. And people's like, oh, it's so much better when you could see the screen. I'm like, yeah, I know. What do you mean to tell you? Because a lot of stuff, it's not done, right? A lot of them don't air for 2 years or like something, or not ever, right?
Yeah.
I worked on shows 20 years ago that movies that never left the shelf. So
wow, really?
I worked some really, really huge things that they were like the biggest thing, and got paid to do like a movie for like 30 days, huge movies. And then I call them the suits, will sit there and watch it and decide, nope, we're going to write it off instead. So if they write it off in taxes, they can never use it again because it was an offset, like it's a write-off. So it could never see daylight ever.
Wow.
I was told. That's what I was told.
Yeah. Wow. That's because, you always hear about, movies where it's a, production nightmare, or, let's just release it. We know it's not great, but we'll try and make some money back. So just release it for whatever. But yeah, wow. So I'm going to ask some of your favorite movies in terms of sound.
I have to be honest, like there's so many good sounding movies out there and TV shows that I can't pick one, especially that I don't rewatch stuff. Maybe that's a better question for my husband. So I can't answer that.
No.
I do a lot of times, like I said, when I'm watching a show or a movie, and I really quite like stuff, I open up IMDb and see who worked on it.
Well, you did Ted Lasso as well.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso.
Yeah. Another one that was really cool that it's out on Apple TV is Bad Monkey.
Yes, with Vince Vaughn.
I'm suspended. I'm technically not even a detective anymore. They said I was consistently reckless, inappropriate, and glib. Why can't you just hide me on the desk in here or something? Wouldn't even be doing any real work. I'd just be checking the websites I like.
The widow, Ian Stripling, reported her husband missing. She needs the ark to bury him.
When did you learn Nick was missing?
I was in Paris. It was a birthday present from him. So are these.
Fancy.
They're like 10 grand.
Why are we whispering?
I don't know.
What if this wasn't an accident? I'm telling you, she was trying very hard to cry.
What are you doing? You're not a cop. Leave it alone.
I can't get involved in this.
You're the one that got me involved.
Or you want to stop being polite and start getting real?
Is that the intro to the real world?
In my defense, I thought you were too young to know that. Inspector Yancey, have a few questions.
What time is it?
Just past bathrobe time, so you're still good.
Okay. Bye.
They did a bad thing.
I have it on good authority that Eve is in the Bahamas to grieve. I really need to find her.
Go talk to the Dragon Queen. Did a bad thing.
My gut is telling me that there's somebody who's keeping an eye on me because of what I know, but I really don't know what I know.
You had a concussion.
I'm fine.
Please tell me you didn't drive here.
I don't think I did.
Did a bad thing.
Your place is a rat trap. Why don't you get a cat?
I have one right here.
Yeah, then buy a tiger.
Can't get tigers in Florida, idiot.
There was a documentary about it, dumbass.
Yeah, I actually met him because we went to the premiere, and I'm like, "Hey, Vince." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Did you like how manly I made your feet sound?" And he's like, "Actually, they sound more manly than I am in real life." I'm like, "You're welcome." Not all the time do I listen to my work. Like after I'm done, like I don't like rewatching stuff, but I did re-listen to Shogun once it came out.
Yeah.
On Murders in the Building, amazing. That's also I'm nominated for that one for Foley as well this year. So it's Only Murders.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. And Bed Monkey was quite excellent because some of it is sand, and sand is a really tricky thing to do Foley for and not have it sound like white noisy.
Yeah, that frequency range. Yeah. What about snow? Footsteps for snow. What do you use?
So. First, I love using real snow.
Oh,
love using real snow because
the real thing.
I could use cornstarch.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it flour or corn? But yeah, okay.
Cornstarch is good. Years ago, I used perlite, but it's really unhealthy for you to get in your lungs. So I don't use that. Some people use cat litter. Depending on what it is, I don't like using that. Just personally feel that real snow sounds so great. It is an absolute pain to work with because we mark all the deep snow. So right when we put fresh snow, we have all the fresh snow. Then when it starts to melt, we go all to the ones that are melting and we do all those areas. Then we got to shovel it all and put in new ones. One show we went through 250 pounds of snow.
Oh my goodness.
It's a lot of snow. And I had, the biggest compliment is the sound supervisor for Only Murders in the Building. He's like, your snow footsteps are the best footsteps that ever mixed in the history. I'm like,
there you go.
This is what I live for. Thank you. Like, yeah. So I love that.
That's a nice compliment. I was, one thing as a listener, I always find. And it's just one sound that I always kind of pay attention to, and that's thunder. Trying to get that kind of uniqueness to it. Like there was one, I've got to watch the piano. Sam Haywood, who's a sound designer, said that had one of the most realistic thunder sounds he's heard. So I've got to listen to that. The other one was Kevin Costner's Open Range.
So I don't know if you know who Alan Murray is. He passed away, unfortunately, but he did all the Clint Eastwood movies. He was the most nominated sound supervisor before he passed in the world. He did Joker, the first Joker, pretty talented. I did Those Who Wish Me Dead. I did the props for that. And it was my first feature that I worked with Alan Murray because he listened actually to Yellowstone. He listened to one of the episodes that I did Yellowstone with the time constraint I have. He listened to it. He goes, you did it in this much time. I'm not going to say how much time, but I'm like, yeah. And he goes, wow, I'm impressed. I'm like, yeah, show me like how impressed you are by giving you your next movie. And then he's like, okay. I'm like, are you kidding? He's like, no. He goes, I'm going to be really tough on you. I'm like, yeah, bring it. I did a couple reels, and one of the scenes, there's a car that crashes. Like, it goes down a mountain, bounces and stuff, crashes, flips upside down. It's raining on top of it. The wheel is spinning. And then he listened. He goes, yeah, you did wonderful. I love what you did. He gave me a couple adjustments for a few things. Like, you know, like Angelina Jolie was drinking the liquid, and the liquid didn't change the sound as she's drinking. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. I didn't do that. I'm like, that's what I love about you, dear. Like, so
wow, that amount of detail in the sound to change, that is impressive.
Yeah, but as she was drinking, I had to do it less. I'm like, absolutely, that was my bad, and I love you for telling me this, because now I do it throughout all the sounds that I do. I pay attention to how much liquid is in the drink, and I time it so by the time it ends, I have that much little. So you learn, right? I think the voting for the Emmys ends today.
Shogun's been nominated, hasn't it?
Shogun and Only Murders. And thank God they're not against each other. They're separate categories, you know.
Oh,
so.
Awesome. They've been nominated, and they're shows you've worked on. So
I'm
well done.
I'm so proud of them. So yeah.
That's awesome. Sanaa, thank you so much for your time. It's so appreciative. I'm so glad you were keen to do this, because I just wanted to know more about it. It's awesome because as a listener and someone watching, I get to enjoy all that. So well done, and thank you for all your efforts that you put into TV shows and movies. So keep up the awesome work. And
listening, I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.